So I just wanted to get this idea out here while I was thinking about it, because it's just such a peculiar thought that, passes throughout the day, and I'm not likely to organize it into any sort of structured video. But what I'm thinking about is the idea that reality is literally the underlying structure of reality is a story that we live in some kind of a book. And, if you believe biblical prophecy, we literally are living in a book, and that book is the Bible. But is the underlying structure for reality a story, and not just any story, but almost all stories in some sense of the word? Because like even a fiction book is, a representation of something that somebody was thinking in their head. So there's some reality to that thought itself. But in my situation, the reason I'm thinking about this is, if you know my story at all, I've had a very peculiar life in which I've experienced a number of what can only be described as various cultures' end times prophecies, in which I was not only present for a lot of them, but a key player in fulfilling those prophecies before I even knew about them or had any real idea that that was going on, from the time that I was a little kid. And I didn't even become aware of it until I was about 16, 17, 18, when we helped to locate a long lost artifact, the missing piece of the Toponi fire tablet, and we returned it to Grandfather Martin on Easter of 2011. That was when I was like, yo, like, we actually found an artifact that's prophesied to be found by these two people they call the brothers, the true white brothers, and what it says about their lives is matching up exactly with the two of us who had the vision. It's just uncanny. And so, throughout my life, as I started to kind of try to, or just as my awareness of these strange experiences that happened in my life, began to ruminate in my mind, I began to find various forms of media, particularly movies and just different clips from complete works of fiction, that are too uncanny with my life. For example, the main one being a couple of the things that happened in the movie The Matrix. I didn't even see the movie The Matrix until I was probably 24 or something. But I had ended up seeing a clip here or there, and immediately I realized, this is crazy, because if you know my story at all, when I was 9 years old in 2002, I was poisoned in a mall with a substance that I can only come to the conclusion that it was the black goo. And what it did to me was it split my consciousness and uploaded my consciousness into some sort of separate body, like possibly a cloned body or vessel in a deep underground military base, which I was completely bilocated into for 3 whole days. I had a full 100% physical awareness in this body and this other body that was being dragged around this forest floor, an underground forest, by 1-foot tall gray aliens. And, my whole life I thought that was just some sort of hallucination I had, until I found a music video by Tool, which is Parabola. And in the music video, they illustrate the place that I was taken to with such accuracy that I would say it's exact. I would pay $10 million to have somebody illustrate it, and this is what they would have made. It's perfect. So that was when I realized, hey, something's going on here. This is a real thing that happened to me. I need to figure out what the heck, where was I? What went on? And then another example is, one of my first spiritual awakenings, which took me, about 6-7 years of meditating from the time I was 9 to develop, some sort of extrasensory perception or psychic ability. I didn't have any sort of progress or success until on the the bad advice of my two best friends at the time to basically take a massive dose of these over-the-counter stimulants from 7-Eleven called Nitro to Go. They essentially have, ginseng in it, caffeine, guarana, and one of the main ingredients in there was yohimbe. And basically my friends told me, they said you got to take 5 of these pills, and you'll have this crazy experience. I was like, that sounds interesting, maybe I should try it. But they had specifically told me, do not take the blue pill, take the red pill. And there was, a bottle of blue pills and a bottle of red pills. And at the time that they told me this, I didn't know I don't think they did, and certainly did not know the reference or the crossover to the Matrix. And so I went there and I got 5 of these red pills and I took them. And that night I had basically my first major spiritual awakening, in which I asked God to show me something that I don't know, to prove that, He's there. Something that I myself could identify as not coming from my own mind. And in a split second, I understood fractal geometry. And, essentially, I could read sacred geometry and the fractals in reality like that. Boom. And it opened the door for so many different kinds of abilities and phenomena in my life in a split second. And essentially that was the moment when, I took the red pill literally and woke up. And everybody in my neighborhood that thought I was crazy when I was trying to tell them that reality is a fractal hologram. At this time, nobody online was really even talking about fractal holographic reality. It was literally, I'd never heard the term fractal before, and it literally was just downloaded into my head. Reality is a fractal. And all the people I told thought I was crazy until they themselves came to the realization I was right. And so, things like that, little weird experiences that are just extremely uncanny, that, you could say, oh, this guy watches too many movies and he wants his life to be like a movie. And really, that couldn't be further from the truth. I don't even know these movies. And I just end up finding that experiences that happen in my life are exactly depicted in all these different movies. Like the end of the movie Knowing. When I was a kid, I had this, I was trying to practice astral projection for many years. And kind of towards the tail end of that, I had this, what I still consider to be one of the best dreams I ever had, in which, growing up in Los Angeles, we had, in the dream, I experienced the tsunami, died, came back to life in what I believe is the new Earth, to the New Agers, 5D Earth. But it was basically, I was on this just beautiful, higher dimensional version of Earth with these rolling grassy hills with this grass that looked alive, and it had little bulbs on it with heads, and it kind of they looked like heads on this grass, and they were all waving and singing. And I was with my brother and sister wearing, we were levitating, we were translucent, and we were wearing white gowns. And basically our attention got caught over to the top of the hill where there was this gigantic glowing white tree. And as we started to move towards it, we just dissolved into the best feeling I've ever had. And then the dream ended. And that dream that happened to me was probably 2000, maybe 2008. And in 2009, a movie came out with Nicolas Cage called Knowing. And this end of the scene is depicting, kind of what I would say is a pretty accurate depiction of, in general, just, the end times purification of the earth, because it shows that the earth is being purified with essentially a tsunami of fire from what looks like, a bunch of falling meteors. But the children on the earth are caught up in these crystal light ships, and they land and drop them off on this planet. And it's 90% exact to what my dream was. That, when I saw that, it's who else is having this dream, or what is this place? And then when I became a Christian, I realized that I literally had a dream, if you want to even call it that, of the new earth and the tree of life. Um, and so, so many of these experiences, another one is the movie John Dies at the End. It's a whole movie about the black goo, and it's really uncanny because it depicts the phenomena that I went through where, having all these experiences, I had no choice but to kind of have to like face with the idea that, I could possibly be at the center of these end times prophecies because they're happening to me. I don't see them happening to anyone else. And, the more I became obedient to Christ as a new Christian, these end times biblical prophecies would continue to like literally happen in my life to me. And so, in the movie, it depicts kind of this, the idea that I have, the prophecy pirates, where there's like, there's prophecies being fulfilled, end times biblical prophecies, and even end times Native American and, all these other cultures' prophecies. But then simultaneously with that, there is like a counterfeit fulfillment of these prophecies, where one, you got the signs and wonders that the Antichrist will fulfill, but then there's also literally like just there, like, I can't tell you how many people I've met that have become convinced that they're, the second coming of Christ. And I can't help but empathize with them because it's like, I know I've seen phenomena in my life that like I had to wrestle with, am I literally, the one, it's a huge responsibility that if it's true, I can't shirk it, you know, obviously that's not true. I'm not the second coming of Christ, but all of these phenomena, it was kind of pushing me in that direction where, into this delusion that, I could be the second coming. I know that I'm just, another child of God who, being faithful to Jesus will, if I overcome, I'll earn my place sitting at the right hand of the Father with Jesus, as it says in, Revelation to the book of, or to the church of Laodicea. But, in this movie, John Dies at the End, they depict this like counterfeit version of them